The hammered dulcimer is a diatonic layout with chromatic possibilities. If the chromatic notes feel like guesswork to you, well, you're not alone at all. In this video, I'm going to show you a clear visual guide that helps you know exactly where the chromatic notes are. Well, if you're brand new to this channel, welcome aboard. My name is Joshua Messick. I am a composer and a hammered dulcimer player, and this space is all about sharing my love and joy for the hammered dulcimer with you. If you haven't already watched Hammered Dulcimer Layout Explained for Beginners, I really recommend that you watch that because it explains the diatonic layout of this instrument. In this video, we're going to explore the chromatic possibilities. Now, learning the hammered dulcimer can feel like learning a new language, and I really feel that it is best to learn the hammered dulcimer on its own terms rather than comparing it to other instruments like a piano or a guitar. This video will really help us understand how the dulcimer works and learn the language of the dulcimer. All right, let's jump in and look at the chromatic scale. Now, before we go into any music theory or note names, I really feel like the best way to understand the chromatic scale is to see it. Now, the diatonic scale, as we've seen, forms boxes. The chromatic scale is actually a diagonal. That diagonal is broken into two segments. The first is from marker to marker right here. The second is from marker to marker right here. Now, for convenience, I'm just going to call this a diagonal or the chromatic diagonal. The chromatic scale moves when we play the note below the marker, then the marker, the note below the marker, then the marker, the note below the marker, then the marker. And this diagonal is our first layer. Let's just listen. Now, let's add the second layer. Same thing. We're going to play the note below the marker, then the marker. And our third layer is right here. Now, I'm going to play layer 1, 2, and 3 in succession. Now, it is unique that we are going down on each layer, yet we're playing an ascending chromatic scale. That is unique, but that's the way the dulcimer works. So now we're going to play a descending chromatic scale. We're going to start on the third layer, then go to the second, then the first. And yes, the descending chromatic scale kind of moves up on each layer. We go up to go down. Now, before we go any farther, I do want to say that the layout of the hammered dulcimer is designed to make diatonic music easy to play. The ebb and flow of this instrument definitely favors diatonic music, but all 12 tones of the chromatic scale do exist. But just because all 12 tones exist doesn't mean that it is idiomatic or natural to play in all 12 keys. I'm going to make a video that goes into a much deeper explanation about this, but on the surface, the primary keys would be D, G, and C. So as long as you're playing in those keys or the related minors or modes, the dulcimer is very idiomatic and natural. Chromaticism is easiest for the player when they are accidentals that revolve around the primary keys. Okay, let's take a look at some real-world examples for ways that we can use this chromatic diagonal to help us find some chromatic notes. Let's start with a major blues scale. We'll be in the key of G. Here is our G major box. Now the major blues scale is actually a pentatonic major scale that adds a minor 3 to it. Let's find where that pentatonic major scale is first, all inside the key of G. It would be 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Well, I need to play a minor 3, but if I go down from the 3, here's the 3, down to, that's the 2. Where's the minor 3? Well, let's pull up our chromatic diagonal, and I know that I need to go down, and I can see by that chromatic diagonal, there it is. There's the minor 3. So we can play 1, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, octave. Now let's take a look at a chord. If I'm back to the key of G major, the 2 chord is an A minor. But what if the music called for an A major chord? That would mean that I would need to raise the third interval a half step from a C natural to a C sharp. Well, where is that C sharp? Well, we got to go up a half step to get it. Let's get our chromatic diagonal, and we can see that we need to go right here to find the C sharp. So once again, here's A minor. Here's A major. If you're considering buying a hammered dulcimer, please check out my video, Top 5 Priorities for Choosing a Hammered Dulcimer. And if it helps you out, hey, please drop me a comment. Well, the next logical question is, why does this layout exist? Well, it exists for some very practical reasons, and I absolutely love the layout, and I think it's genius. The first is that this is a portable instrument. So if it were just a horizontal layout like a piano, think about it, my dulcimer's 5 octaves. The instrument would be huge. It would be approaching the size of a piano. So by making the instrument go vertical and horizontal, it helps the instrument be compact. Secondly, this is a historical layout. It dates back to Western Europe, probably the late Middle Ages, early Renaissance, sometime in there, where the music heavily favored diatonic music, and that diatonic music also heavily influenced American folk music. Thirdly, we have to remember that equal temperament did not exist when this layout was developed. So fully chromatic writing would have sounded dissonant, and that's one reason why diatonic and modal music was heavily favored. So this is an area where there's a lot of confusion, and it's totally understandable. When people say that they're playing a dulcimer with the chromatic option, they're not referring to a different layout. They're referring to a dulcimer that has additional notes that makes the dulcimer fully chromatic for its entire range. So let me explain this a little bit more. On a 16-15 dulcimer, the middle octave is fully chromatic. The lower octave is almost fully chromatic, and the upper octave is also almost fully chromatic. What the chromatic option is doing is adding extra notes to that upper and lower octave to make it fully chromatic for all 3 octaves. I want to reinforce here, the chromatic option is not a different layout, it is additional notes. Now, those additional notes, the location of those can vary from builder to builder and model to model. So to be able to understand how to use them, you really need to look at your tuning chart that came with your dulcimer, get to know your instrument, because they do not follow the same logic that I've just presented. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the music theory that helps us understand why this chromatic scale works. Now, before we go any farther, I just want to say I really feel that the visual diagonal that you've already learned is the most important takeaway. But understanding the music theory and why this works really does help us to appreciate and understand the hammer dulcimer layout. So let's go back to the building blocks. Now, these building blocks actually have a name. They're called tetrachords. In this context, what a tetrachord means is just root, whole, whole, half, or do, re, mi, fa. So what we're going to do is arrange these tetrachords to follow the chromatic diagonal. And we're going to look at two layers in this demonstration. Now I'm going to put the root of each tetrachord on the screen. Okay. Now let's go ahead and play through the roots of each tetrachord. Just listen to this. Now, that is actually do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, which is a diatonic scale. Let's go ahead and play through each tetrachord, and I want you to hear the ascending upward motion. Okay, now here is the trick, the magic trick that actually makes this work. The first two notes of each tetrachord is a whole step. The last two notes of each tetrachord is a half step. So when we remove the first two notes and only play the last two notes of each tetrachord, we end up with the chromatic scale. I do understand that this A right here happened twice. That's because over here, it's on a marker. Over here, it's one below a marker. So if we wanted to play a successive chromatic scale, we would only play the A once, and we can play it in either location. So I'll play through it now in succession. Well, I hope this video has been helpful. This is understandably a confusing topic. Before we wrap up, I would like to mention that I am a Masterworks Hammer Dulcimers representative. So if you have any questions about Masterworks Hammer Dulcimers, please get in touch with me through my website, joshuamessick.com. And if you would like to buy a dulcimer, your support really does help me to create more content for this channel. Until the next time, I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.